John had always had a crush on Flora, but she always had a boyfriend. He'd known her since high school and they hung out in the same friend group. Normally, her relationships were short, only 2 to 3 months, but for some reason, at the end of each relationship, she would immediately get into a new one. Whenever John and Flora hung out together with their friends, she was very flirty towards him, and he thought she might have had a crush on him too, despite being in a relationship. Everyone in the group knew that John was keen on Flora, so towards the end of high school, when Flora broke up once again with another guy, they encouraged him to take her to the end-of-year senior formal. John built up the courage to ask, and to his delight, she said yes. They went to the formal and danced together and kissed. Afterwards, one of their classmates held an after-party, to which all the underage high schoolers smuggled alcohol and got drunk. That night at the party, John and Flora lost their virginity together, and shortly after that, they became an exclusive couple. 2 years later, John and Flora couldn't have been happier. This was the longest relationship Flora had ever been in, and John felt that they were in love. He knew Flora was the one person he wanted to spend his life with, and decided it was time for him to propose. They were deeply in love, so why wait? But first he wanted to run it by Flora's best friend to get her opinion and get suggestions on the most romantic way he could pop the question to his girlfriend. He invited Tash around to his place. She was part of their close friend group, and John had known her as long as he'd known Flora. She and John had always been chummy, and she immediately picked up on his nervousness. She told him to just spit out whatever was on his mind. "I'm going to ask Flora to marry me," he said. John expected Tash to jump up and down with excitement. Instead, he got a different response. She looked stricken and just said, "Oh." "What's oh?" he asked. She told him to sit down and warned him that what she was about to tell him would likely break his heart, but she couldn't in good conscience allow John to propose to Flora. "Why not?" he asked. Tash looked up to the heavens and took a deep breath. "Oh man, here we go, John. You shouldn't marry Flora because she's been cheating on you. She's cheated on you like 13 times. John laughed. He thought Tash was joking, but she wasn't smiling. She was looking down at him with pity on her face. This was not a joke. John didn't fully grasp what his friend was saying and asked her to elaborate. That was a big mistake because Tash told him every gritty detail of Flora's secret activities. John's heart sank lower and lower with every word. 2 weeks ago, Flora had a Tinder hookup with a random guy. A month before that, on a girls' night out, she went home with the hunky bartender that was flirting with the girls all night. There were 2 more Tinder hookups before that. Tash asked John if he remembered Danny Child's house party that he didn't go to. John remembered. He was sick with the virus and couldn't go. Apparently the party had gotten out of hand and the cops were called. Flora had hidden upstairs with Danny's best friend while the party got cleared out. They were drunk and ended up fucking on Danny's bed, but that's not the worst of it. When the cops were gone and the party shut down, Danny found Flora and his best friend doing the deed in his bedroom and decided to join in. By this point in Tash's retelling, John was as white as a ghost with his head in his hands. He shook his head in denial, but he asked Tash to continue. She said it was more of the same. One night stands from the club and Tinder hookups. It had been ongoing since the end of high school. "We all knew about it," she said in reference to their friend group. John couldn't believe what he had just heard. His mind couldn't process it and he felt sick. "So why didn't anyone tell me?" Tash just shrugged and said they all thought their relationship wasn't that serious. In fact, she was a little surprised that they'd even lasted 2 years. Back in high school, all of Flora's relationships ended when her boyfriend of the week had found out she'd hooked up with another classmate. John had heard the rumors of Flora's failed relationships in high school and the reasons for those failures, but he adamantly refused to believe anything negative about Flora. He was too enamored and blinded by his crush on her. "So, Flora's cheated on me with 13 guys?" he asked. Tara tilted her hand from side to side. "Well, technically it was only 12. You guys hadn't officially started dating when she hooked up with Brad that first time," she said. Brad had been the star basketball player back in high school. All the girls were crazy about him, and he'd slept with a good majority of them too. John asked for clarification, and Tash told him there was a party at Brad's house a week before the senior formal when his parents had gone out of state. Tash and Flora had gone and one of their other friends. Brad stole some liquor from his dad's stash and they were drinking and playing stupid games like Spin the Bottle and Truth or Dare. Things got a little hot and heavy and Brad ended up taking Flora to his room and deflowering her. After hearing this, John was actually sick. He rushed to the bin at his desk and vomited into it. It was a wire mesh bin and quite ineffective at containing the puke. It went all over John and the carpet. Tash took a strategic step towards the door. John's mind whirled. For 2 years, Flora had let him believe they had lost their virginities together in a blissful moment of connection and tenderness. It had all been a lie. It felt like his heart was being torn to shreds. He told Tash to inform Flora that he was no longer her boyfriend and not to try contacting him. He was cutting her out of his life. She nodded solemnly, and John told her he wanted to be alone now. As Tash was leaving, John said he would no longer be a part of the friend group and asked for all of them to keep their distance. He couldn't believe Tash and the others had kept all of this from him for 2 years. He knew he would never be able to trust any of them ever again. A clean break was the best option. Tash looked sad and hurt but said it was understandable. When she left, John sat in stunned silence as the devastating revelation washed over him. His mind raced with a storm of emotions from disbelief to despair. What was he going to do now? His plans for the future had been shattered. He didn't know what he'd do now without Flora by his side. As he gazed into the void of his future, questions swirled in his mind. How would he pick up the pieces? Where would he find the strength to carry on? With a heavy heart, John realized that he was standing at a crossroads, facing a journey into the unknown, with nothing but his resilience and determination to guide him forward. Thanks for being part of today's journey. If you're hungry for more awesome content, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like, and hit that bell to stay in the loop. Also, share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Let's build a community together. See you in the next video.